Trudeau doesn't care, Ford doesn't care, Arif doesn't care, and the government doesn't care.
I want to reassure you very much that all of us on this committee care very deeply.
Women in this country are being killed and the other parties don't care. I'm disgusted. We need to be talking about this issue so that we can stop.
Today, we witnessed one of the most disgusting displays of hypocrisy from the Liberal and NDP alliance. After having domestic violence survivors fly into Ottawa to testify before the Standing Committee on the Status of Women, the Liberals shut down testimony because the witnesses made Justin Trudeau look bad.
Now, many of you had reached out to make us aware of this. Even though we already were, but this came as a result of a video that Michelle Ferreri posted on Facebook Live to let everybody know what happened. Now, before we get into this video, there is some sensitive subject matter that is discussed, so viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, sorry, just leaving committee here. It was wild. It was wild. I've never seen anything like what just happened. So we had witness testimony. We had a woman from California 3 years ago today. She was viciously attacked. Her attacker walked free. Her testimony was upsetting. It was very upsetting. And we had a deputy police chief from Peel testify, and we had Megan Walker from who works with London Police in Women's Services, all testify. And the reason this meeting, we had a reconvened meeting for Status of Women because Stats Canada released some wild stats in the increase in sexual assault. 75% it's increased since 2015. Violent crime has increased 50%. There's a woman missing right now out of Markham. And it is just a wild statistical situation right now. Peel Deputy Police testified that a woman a day is being strangled. So we were listening to this very powerful testimony. The point of committee is to initiate change. What can we do legislatively? What can we be doing? We are the policy makers. I'm in opposition, so it is my job to hold the government to account along with my Conservative colleagues, NDP colleagues, but they're in a coalition with the Liberals. Liberal NDP put forward a motion. She shut down witness testimony, wouldn't let them testify, put down witness, I better come over here because they're loud, sorry, put out a motion on abortion to shut these witnesses down.
So they flew one of these ladies in from California, only to pull a stunt to shut it down. What happened to the party that was the feminists? What happened to the party that was all about domestic violence? What about the party that was all about women's rights? What happened to that party, Liberals?
That party only exists when it suits them. When there are victims testifying at committee to these numbers that StatsCan just released to show that domestic violence has increased. I think it was 75% is what Michelle Ferreri said. They can't have those numbers out. They can't have the public learning about that. So they try to shut it down. I
bet if those numbers increased under the Conservatives, they would have given them all the time in the world, wouldn't they? So we watched a lot of the committee meeting. It was
heart-wrenching, like the stories that these victims were telling. And the fact that the Liberals were just like, this makes us look bad, let's shut it down. We don't care that your abusers walked free. It makes us look bad, so we're not going to let you speak. We're going to re-victimize you and not let you talk because it makes us look bad.
Yeah. Now, the committee meeting was over an hour and a half long. We had to really cut all of that down. There was a lot of filibustering at the end, so we cut a lot of that down. We were able to cut down the statements made by the witnesses just in the interest of time. But we, as always, have a link in the description. We strongly encourage everybody to take a look at the beginning of this committee meeting after our video so you can hear their statements in full. They deserve to be heard in full. The focus of this video is to really comment on procedurally what happened and, you know, the potential repercussions of what happened at this committee meeting. So with that, let's get to the committee video that we have prepared for you.
Fortunate to be here today. I'm supposed to be dead. On July 31st, 2021, exactly 3 years ago today, I sent the 2-word WhatsApp message, "Please help," to a friend who thankfully believed me. My ex was beating me. All 6'3", approximately 250 pounds of him, because he couldn't find his car keys. For 4 hours, with his fists, his feet, a wooden rolling pin, door wells, he split my head open in 3 places, gouged my eyes out with his thumbs, kicked my ribs, and tortured me in ways I can feel but can't fully describe. I do not know how my body survived it. My ex enjoyed what he did to me. He threatened to kill my family. The police were going to leave me for dead, but my former neighbor intervened. And after all that, guess what your criminal and justice system gave me? A peace bond. All 8 charges, 5 in the provincial and 3 in the federal, were stayed against my ex. And I can't say his name because it will forever be known as alleged abuse. I ask of you exactly what I asked Justice Himmel, who had the tears in her eyes on March 26, 2024, when I received the peace bond. Why does he abuse, and why is he allowed to get away with it? He abuses because he is publicly and personally rewarded for it, and he is allowed to get away with it because you, the government of Canada, lets him. And I want to state from a survivor's perspective, Trudeau doesn't care, Ford doesn't care, Arif doesn't care, and the government doesn't care.
So that was a piece of Ms. Alexander's testimony. But I think it captures the core of what she's trying to say, which is something grotesque happened to her, and there was no consequences for the person that attacked her.
A peace bond. Give me a break. Somebody assaults another person in that manner and is just given a peace bond. Okay, don't go near them again. I don't have words. I really don't. Like, I don't have any remarks, whether angry or witty or anything. This is the state of our justice system in Canada, and it should not be like this.
And it wasn't like this before 2015. Like, the people that support the Liberals and the NDP, wake up. And I don't say that facetiously. I say it to implore you, pay attention to what's going on. Don't just listen to the sound bites of what a great job they're doing. You have to listen to the hard things.
And this is hard. This is really hard. I mean, to see those images of this young woman who has been attacked so viciously, and the Liberal government just, you know, lets abusers out with like what? You know, a scolding, don't do it again. Our country should not be like this.
And yeah, I don't blame her. Because I would be thinking Ford doesn't care because obviously this happened in Ontario. He's obviously done nothing to address it. Trudeau's done nothing to address it. And Arif, he's the current justice minister. Doing nothing to address it. All of this is a result of the legislation that you've put in to the criminal justice system because you say, well, you know, it's discriminatory against people, so, you know, we should just err on the side of release everybody. This is on you.
2019, 136 women killed. 2020, 160 women killed. 2021, 173 women and girls killed. 2022, 184 women and girls killed. 2023, 187 women and girls were victims of femicide. The total number of femicides in Canada between 2019 and 2023 is 840. 840 dead women. The year after year increases significance, yet here we are, and the government hasn't called it a crisis or epidemic. The government, in fact, hasn't addressed it at all. Current government strategies to end femicide, whatever they are not working. If they were, we would see a decrease in femicide rates. I'm hard-pressed to know what those strategies are, or even if there are strategies.
So the committee was defining femicide as when a man murders a woman for the sole reason that she's a woman.
Well, and you can have the debate whether or not that needs to be categorized as separate from a straight-up murder charge. But the point is that we have seen violent crime escalate year after year after year immediately after the Liberals introduced this catch and release legislation, and you're seeing this specific demographic against women that is increasing at almost 10% per year. That's a problem. That's a trend.
Huge problem. Like, this is not okay. And this Liberal government, who claims to be, you know, pro-women and feminists, they're allowing this to happen with these catch and release policies.
Well, and what this demonstrates is they are for women as long as that can fit into a photo op.
Yeah, that's the truth.
The police reported crime statistics released by Statistics Canada is nothing short of concerning, and we are seeing similar trends across our country. Peel region is one of the most diverse and vibrant communities in Canada. It also contains one of North America's busiest airports. In 2023, our officers responded to over 9,500 incidents of family and intimate partner violence, which results in approximately 26 incidents every single day. We laid over 9,050 charges. The top 5 charges are uttering threats, failure to comply with release order, assault with a weapon, and choking or suffocating. Our data shows that a woman is strangled every single day in the region of Peel. Of the 14 homicides that we've had in Peel region, almost 20% have been femicides.
And this goes back to what Michelle had said earlier as to what the deputy police chief had testified to, that every single day, one woman is strangled in the region of Peel.
And Peel's not gigantic. I think Peel encompasses Mississauga.
Burlington.
No, I think Burlington's Halton. I think it's Mississauga, possibly Brampton and Milton, I think.
So
it's not huge. It's probably, if I had to guess, 2 to 3 million people.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
It's
every single day.
It's your legislation, Liberals. You guys are always quick to say, look to the science. Well, look to the stats. Cause and effect. Violent crime was at the floor. You inherited a peaceful country from the Conservatives under Stephen Harper. And you've turned it into a crime zone. And that's not an exaggeration. Violent crime is up 50%. So you have a lot to answer for.
At this point, I would like to welcome Michelle for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to our witnesses. Extremely powerful testimony. To call this a crisis is an understatement, and the connection between each of your testimonies is profound. Cait, I know you wanted to finish and say a few more things, but what jumped off the page of me, what you said, above all of the horrific things, calling it alleged, and you have all of those photos of your assault, publicly and personally rewarded for it. Those are your words of your attacker. Can you expand on what you mean by that legally in Canada?
Thank you for the question. Abusers don't think in the same way that the average person does, and which is why they are able to commit the offenses that you or I wouldn't commit. Abusers get off on the reward of being allowed to commit these offenses. I have video taken of my ex and his enjoyment of what he did to me, and knowing that the government said, well, this isn't a big deal. And I will quote the Crown Attorney, we don't have time for this. So he is publicly rewarded because he feels like he is above the law. He is personally rewarded because he is 6'3" and 250 pounds. He can push me around no matter if I had a black belt or otherwise. He has a son who is in his care, and this was overlooked. There is an open case with CPS. Nothing was done. The federal ombudsperson has called on our behalf. Nothing was done. So his rewards are he gets to operate however he chooses to. There are no consequences for his actions, and I guarantee you if he is not stopped, he will be a part of the homicide statistics. He will kill someone. He came damn close to it with me on this day.
The irony of it being on this day, and then your testimony today, and I know you flew a long way to testify here today, and I know your parents are also here, and I think one of the things that we don't address is the impact on families and children as well, and I know Deputy Chief talked about this, and I guess what I'm trying to get at the heart of this in this meeting is what changes do we have to do? And you were poignant in saying you have a Canadian passport, but you don't feel safe in this country. And I guess, you know, we have a letter from the premiers, all premiers across this country asking for bail reform. And, you know, you're saying you don't feel safe. It's a publication ban without consent. And to Deputy Chief's point, you have a blatant disregard, so you can see the connection between Cait's testimony and the Deputy Chief's testimony. So if I could go to the Deputy Chief and say, what needs to be done federally? And to Ms. Walker's point, if the money was being spent the way that it's saying it's being spent, we wouldn't see an increase. We would see a decrease. And yet we have the worst numbers we've ever seen. So if I could get the Deputy Chief on record saying what needs to be done, do you agree with this bail reform letter that the premiers have signed, and how much of this can be reversed in policy federally?
Let me first say, really appreciate the question, and I really want to commend everybody that has come here during this meeting, particularly survivors that are sharing their stories. You know, I do agree with the need to create some change, and, you know, the question was very direct. What can be done? And the answer is going to be also very direct and very simple. What we need to begin doing is reprioritize the consideration for victims and survivors in a way that allows them to feel safe in their communities. And at its most basic, we've heard testimony today, and I've spoken to survivors myself, had multiple conversations of people who unfortunately have been targeted or who have experienced similar scenarios. And the reality is they don't feel safe and they don't feel supported by our current system. And so, you know, when a person does build up the courage to notify police who's supposed to protect them, we go and we arrest that person and we charge them. And the idea is that that results in that person no longer being a threat. The reality is, from the statistics we've seen and like currently what we're experiencing, is it's quite probable that that person will continue to be a threat to the survivor or the person who's built up the courage in order to engage police. And, you know, at its basic level, that is what needs to change.
So that's the long answer for the police are screaming. And this is why the premiers are in turn screaming for the government to gut this stupid catch and release bail policy. Like, there was nothing wrong with it.
No, but the Liberals came in and went, oh, well, you know, we have to think of the perpetrator. We have to think about their feelings and why they did it and this and that and blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't matter what the victims think. That's their logic. That's not my logic. I don't believe that at all. I think what they did was they were like over compassionate, but to the wrong group.
Yeah. So we actually looked at the bill, and we're not going to get into that in this video, but at the core of the bill, it says there's too many Indigenous people in prison. So therefore, we need to have less Indigenous people in prison. And the only reason that Indigenous people are in prison is because racism. That's what the bill says. And in order to do that, or in order to address that, they're basically saying, release everybody.
Well, they're saying that judges should give special consideration to ethnic background, essentially. So if you're white, you stay in jail longer. And if you're not, well, they'll give you special consideration.
Well, but the issue with the bill is that it even went, you know, beyond that, right? Even white people are being released. So that's the problem, is that it is literally catch and release. And that's what the deputy police chief is very carefully saying, that yes, the bail laws right now are freaking terrible. And exactly as he's saying, you know, somebody injures you, the police are supposed to come take them away, and you feel safe. They're done. They got him.
Well, and further to that, Ms. Walker had said her ex has a small child who is in his custody. Like, that is horrifying.
Yeah, what's going to happen to that child? You think that his abuse is going to be limited to a girlfriend? It's unlikely. That's what the stats say. And CPS doesn't want to do anything. Wow.
Thank you. And I have such limited time, and this is such a big topic, but I think we have to get to the nuts and bolts of it. And I think when we have two bills, C5 and C75, I guess just a yes or no answer from you, Deputy. Are these bills, and Cait said it beautifully, is, you know, nobody seems to care, but these are policies that if were changed tomorrow, would this give you more freedom to be able to keep people who are at risk of public safety, of hurting more people?
Yeah, we will, you know, definitely it is. We will continue to take advantage of every opportunity and every change we made. And I want to be clear, this is not me advocating. Well, of course, I'm here. I'm wearing a police uniform and I'm representing Peel Police. But I am really representing my community who is not feeling as though the current system is supporting them and considering their interests in the way they feel and the victimization. So contemporarily, it's not working for our community, and we need to make change. We need to begin looking at issues such as bail, the prevalence of illegal firearms, you know, prioritization of the issues for our community like gender-based violence, human trafficking, and those types of things.
Excellent. Thank you very much. At this point, Anita, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I want to thank the witnesses for coming here and for your incredible testimony. And I want to reassure you, both of you, but especially Cait, because you said that you don't believe that any of us care. And I want to reassure you very much that all of us on this committee care very deeply. It's why we've done so many studies on intimate partner violence. We've had testimony like yours that is very difficult to hear, but has been very, very important to put recommendations. And we believe you, and we believe others like you.
So Anita's a liberal, and they're saying, well, we believe you, we care. Get ready for the hypocrisy, folks.
Yeah, get ready for the but.
And our government has put many, many measures to try to make sure that the things that happen to you don't happen to others. This is something we've never done. We do not use victims' and survivors' trauma to try to score political points in this committee.
I haven't seen this footage yet. Ryan was the one that put it together.
See, recall what she said about 30 seconds ago. We've heard people like you come before, and we applaud you, and we hear you, and we believe you. And then she said a bunch of other stuff, which is where I cut it to. Now she's saying, well, this is just a political stunt.
That's disgusting. That makes me want to vomit, like legit. Like, oh my God.
Liberal voters, this is who you elected. And they're all doing it.
Well, I know Anita is going to get a unpleasant letter from me. I won't be rude, but I will be unpleasant because that's just disgusting. I can't believe that a woman would say that to another woman who held up photos of herself beaten and bloodied. Oh my God.
And she's not done, folks.
This is cruel. I think it's cruel to have people relive the trauma that they've endured just to be able to have a meeting so that if it's not agreed to, then there's all kinds of social media that, liberals or others don't care about this issue, which, as we all know, we do very deeply. So I know that under the previous chair, this committee worked with great respect for one another. We made sure that the vice chairs weren't even consulted about having this meeting. Yes, it's an emergency. I would have loved to have had an emergency meeting in June. Madam Chair?
This report just came out last week on the 25th, if I'm not mistaken. I would have loved to have the meeting in June. Oh, a whole month and a half before the report was even available? What is wrong with you?
Well, and now she's impugning the chair. Oh, well, the old chair was way better. The old chair was liberal.
This is horrendous. You weren't kidding when you said it was the most disgusting committee that we've ever seen.
I don't have a word. Like, revolting, it's not strong enough.
The women who came forward as witnesses today are advocates for other women who have experienced this kind of violence. And they're brave and they're strong enough to come forward all the way from California to go to Ottawa and sit down and share their experience in the hopes that it will help other women. And look what this Liberal MP has said.
Well, and again, this lady is so scared to live in Canada. That's why she's in California. That's why.
This is so wrong.
And now the icing on the cake, folks.
I would like to move a motion. And the reason I'm moving a motion is because in this committee we've respected each other. There are very important issues that we have said we've adjourned debate.
Is the most important issue we can address.
Debate, and I'm hoping that the committee could vote quickly on this motion, hopefully unanimously, so that we can quickly go back to the study, the witnesses that we have today, If we vote right away, it'll only take 5 minutes. But I would like to resume debate on the motion that we adjourn debate on May 13th, 2022. And the motion reads that the Standing Committee on the Status of Women report to the House that A, access and availability to reproductive health services, no matter where one lives in Canada, including safe and legal abortion, is a charter right and is ensured under the Canada Health Act. And B, the decision to have an abortion made by women, transgender, and non-binary individuals for any reason is their freedom of choice and theirs alone. So, Madam Chair, we have refrained from putting motions like this because of collegiality, but at this moment, we're not, and I hope we can do a vote immediately on this motion, and therefore we can get back to our witnesses right away, and we'll only lose 5 minutes in this meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
What kind of stunt is this? I mean, abortion is legal in Canada. 100% legal. Too legal in some opinions. Like, why are they putting forward this motion?
And just so everyone understands, what she is asking to do is to resume debate. She says, well, we can get back to the witnesses in 5 minutes, but I want to make a motion to resume debate on a motion that we haven't talked about for 2 years.
And if you recall, there is no time limit to debate. That's how Mr. Barrett and Mr. Brock were able to shut down and filibuster through that committee last week or the week before. So that is exactly what the Liberals are trying to do right now, because these witnesses that so bravely came forward, they are making the Trudeau government look bad. They're making the Liberals and NDP look bad, and the Liberals don't want them speaking.
Well, and then the Liberals go on to say, well, you know, the Conservatives are just playing games. Meanwhile, what they're doing is trying to reopen debate on a motion for abortion. So all they can do is trash the Conservatives on something that the Conservatives aren't even talking about and have stated in their policy charter that they're not going to be addressing. So there's literally no reason to have it. But the Liberals are drowning so much in public opinion that they have resorted to just the most disgusting tactics. And you know what? I guess public opinion be damned at this point.
Well, I believe it was Michelle Fieri who had said, you know, the Liberals are losing when they drag abortion.
And they're dragging it up every day now, to the point where they're shoving it in the faces of victims of domestic violence and saying, well, you know what's more important than you having the crap kicked out of you and almost killed? We need to talk about contraceptives.
This is just disgusting. I am so sorry for the women who bravely came to Ottawa to talk about what happened to them and how the government needs to do better at protecting women. And the Liberals decided to turn it into a game.
Well, and unfortunately, you're about to see a committee first in a few minutes.
Michelle.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry. Madam Chair, I'd like to speak on the motion.
Okay, I'll add your name to the speaking list.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what people are watching at home right now is we have a debate on the floor. We've called an emergency meeting because Stats Canada released shocking statistics. We've seen an increase 75% in sexual assault since 2015. Total sexual violations against children up 119%.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Ms. Gazan had her hand up and wanted to speak first. She indicated early that she wants to speak, and the chance is not given to her. Can she speak first?
I've currently given the chair to MP Ferrari. I've noticed that MP Gazan has her hand up, and I acknowledge that she'll have the floor next.
So you have the NDP lady trying to speak. She's the one who said, I want to speak on the motion. And then the Liberal MP saying, oh, well, she was trying to speak first.
So the Liberal trying to interrupt the chair and say, oh, the NDP had the floor.
Correct. And the chair saying, no, Like I hadn't even called for the speaking list at this point, but
she's next. She can talk next.
Right. No
But
problem.
they don't want Michelle speaking at all.
Exactly.
They don't want her explaining to Canadians who are watching exactly what's going on here. And the disgusting thing about all of this, and I really shouldn't be surprised, I don't know why I was, but when I was on Reddit today, because it's a very left-leaning platform, it's like a left-leaning message board, they were trying to say that Canadians should not be permitted to watch committee at all. It should all be in camera, and Canadians shouldn't be able to watch it because of stuff like this.
Yeah, quote unquote political stunts. So they would rather have a complete black hole where Canadians can't see what the government's doing. This is what liberal voters are saying. It's unreal.
I have no words.
They want to put their heads in the sand so much just so they can, not have to worry about reality.
Well, and they don't want the rest of us to be informed. That's the problem.
Well, and that's why the Liberal government, in all facets, tries to prevent people from speaking however they can.
And just to clarify, because I'm a little bit upset, and I don't know if I'm making my points clearly, but it was not the government that said all meetings should be in camera. It was just random people who lean left on Reddit saying that all committee meetings should be in camera,
right,
so as to avoid things like what happened today.
Right. So, anyway, so there's a there's a cluster that goes on between the Liberals and the chair, and the chair says, I've made my ruling. Fury speaks first. So then the Liberals, of course, challenge the chair. This is their new play tactic because they have the NDP lapdogs right next to them.
And they know that if the NDP votes with them, which they will, that they'll always win. Which, shame on the NDP, because they had a confidence and supply agreement. This has nothing to do with confidence or supply.
Correct.
And they're still voting to prop up these Liberals.
Correct.
This is disgusting. Our government should not function like this.
Correct. So of course they challenged the chair. Of course it went to a vote. And of course, well, you'll see.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Really sad about a committee that has worked together to put together transformational studies being used politically today. But I'm to speak to the motion, so I'm going to do that. But I have to say, before I do that, to share how devastated I am. Because I can tell you, as an Indigenous woman in this place that decided to run because of this particular issue, because I live in ground zero for murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls, because I live and represent a community.
So the chair was overruled, and look who got to speak. And again, identity politics coming into play here. Well, my victim points are much higher because I'm Indigenous and I'm a woman and I'm speaking at ground zero for where all this is happening. How do you think that makes the victims sitting in committee feel? Like, this is unreal. Because some of you may not know, when a motion is brought forth, testimony stops.
And the witnesses just have to sit there.
Absolutely. For hours, if necessary, until it's dealt with. It is unreal. So they're having to sit and listen to all of this crap, and they can't say anything. And they won't be acknowledged by the chair. So they're being forced to listen to all of this crap.
Talk about re-victimizing the victims. Isn't that what that Liberal said?
Yep.
Who's doing the re-victimizing? It's the Liberals and the NDP. Michelle, when she was asking her questions, she was very respectful and she was listening. And you can tell she's trying to get information. She wants to make this better. And what do these Liberals and NDP do? They make themselves out to be the victims.
100%.
It's disgusting.
Because collegiality has been something, as you know, I have
Point of order. Point of order.
We have a point of order, Leah. Anna, what's your point of order?
The Conservatives have had enough. At this point, Anita has been going on and on and on and on about this. And I believe it's Anna Roberts. I believe that's her name. She's had enough. So she's introducing a point of order here. And kudos to her. Kudos to her. You don't hear her name a lot, but I applaud her for what she brings to the table here.
And you can see the two witnesses, as we had said, on the very bottom of the screen. And they were just kind of sitting there, literally twiddling their thumbs. I mean, they've psychologically had to get themselves ready to come to Ottawa. And physically, too. I mean, flying in from California. But psychologically had to prep themselves for this committee. And the Liberals are pulling this stunt.
They've completely turned around. They can't even look at what's going on right now.
I mean, we're sitting here angry on their behalf, and I cannot imagine the strength and the fortitude it must have taken them to sit there and listen to all this garbage.
It's obvious that they're just completely disgusted with what's gone on.
I'm really disgusted in this whole day, and I want to apologize to the two witnesses for coming all this distance to help us solve a problem that women in this country are being killed and the other parties don't care. I'm disgusted. We need to be talking about this issue so that we can stop.
So I'm not sure if you were able to see them, but it was pretty obvious to me that they were fighting back tears and trying to hold themselves together.
Again, like just the amount of strength that it must take, not only to go all that way, but to tell that story and show those incredibly vulnerable photos where you've just been abused so horrifically. And then the Liberals want to talk about abortion. They want to shut you up so that they can talk about something that's not even an issue in this country.
But right before they say that, they say, we just want you to know that we care. But we care so much that we don't want to talk to you anymore. We want to have a debate on abortion.
It's horrendous.
Yeah, so I'm disgusted because I wasn't given a chance to put forward witnesses when I'm representing Ground Zero of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. I could have called the families of loved ones who just lost their loved ones to serial killers in my riding down the street from where I live. Not one Indigenous woman, not one trans woman was asked. It was not done in a thoughtful way. It's a way of silencing voices.
Are you kidding me? It's a way of silencing voices. What do you think you're doing right now, NDP?
Well, the witnesses are there. I mean, the way I understand committee works is that if there's other witnesses that you want to bring forward, you can talk to the chair. I mean, to be like, oh, well, you know, we don't have Indigenous women, we don't have trans women, you know, their experiences are more important than yours, even though you're sitting right here and came all the way from California.
Right? They're saying this isn't valid because we don't have all of the colors of the rainbow sitting at committee.
It's whataboutism is the problem. It's like, your stuff doesn't matter because what about these people over here?
And this is the thing that is just, this Liberal government just cannot mentally handle, is the fact that stats don't care about color of skin. Stats don't care about, are you transgender or are you not?
Stats don't care about your feelings. Stats don't care about what you identify as. Stats are just pure and raw, and there they are. And
the biggest trope that you hear from some of these people, not all of them, but some of them, is, well, if you're not a member of X community, then anything that you say is completely invalid.
You know,
well, I'm sorry, but someone who is beaten almost to death, I think they're qualified to speak on domestic violence, and they're probably a pretty good representative to bring forward stats and anecdotes and examples from other people from other backgrounds, by the way, which they do. If you watch the full video, And that should be regarded as valid. But no. It's an excuse to shut these people up. And she has the gall to say, this is silencing people. What the heck do you think you're doing, lady?
It is about a constant attack on women.
All of my years
by the
in advocating
Conservative
for
Party.
women. We are leaving. We will not ever have...
Madam Chair, or sorry, your mic is not on, and no one. And at this point, we don't have space to acknowledge in this space right now.
I want to acknowledge the witnesses, Madam Speaker, because I'm the one.
The witnesses are no longer in the room.
Okay.
Michelle, you have the floor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So, what's happened here today is Status of Women reconvened for the summer because Stats Canada released even more shocking statistics. We know this. We sit in Status of Women. The rate of domestic violence is at epic proportions. 95 municipalities in Ontario alone have declared this a crisis. The deputy chief here from Peel today testified saying a woman is strangled every single day just in his community. We had a woman fly here from California to tell us that on the anniversary of her near-death experience from her abuser, that she doesn't feel safe to use her Canadian passport because her attacker is personally rewarded for being an abuser under our Canadian federal laws. Her mom is standing here right now watching this. Her mom is the witnesses have left in tears.
Point of order.
Megan Walker, who has worked with London
point
Police,
of order,
said,
Michelle.
Go ahead.
Is that one?
Sorry, Madam Chair. Relevance to the motion, please.
Oh my God. Sorry, I know a lot of you guys don't like it when I take the Lord's name in vain like that, but like, what is going on here? What is wrong with Jenna Atwin? Relevant. Like, that is beyond disgusting. You know, these liberal women are absolutely disgusting. They're like vipers.
Yep. Don't care. Miss Megan Walker, stood up and started yelling because of how pissed off she was. And she ended up saying, "We are never coming back."
You know, that's horrible on so many levels because, number one, the information and the knowledge that woman has can be so valuable to help Canadian women to just prevent this from ever happening again. And number two, it's horrible, most importantly, because of how it's making her feel. You know, again, it's re-victimizing the victims again.
And then you have the complacency and the arrogance of people like Atwin sitting there saying, point of order, relevance. It is infuriating.
It's disgusting how these liberal women can sit there and claim to be feminists. That's disgusting.
Yep, thank you. I'm getting there. And, you know, Cait's mom is standing here, and we talked about this. This is the status of women. The impact. Women are the whole heartbeat of society. And this wasn't a game. And the Liberal MP across the way says that we said nobody cares. That was victim testimony. The victim testimony said Trudeau doesn't care, not us. And the NDP colleague from Winnipeg, who has epic proportions of domestic violence, homicides, murders. There was plenty of reference to Indigenous folks. Cait, who was representing here today, represented voices of dozens of victims. So did Megan Walker, who has dedicated her life to empowering women. And so did the deputy police chief. And so what happened? The Liberal MP put forward a motion on abortion in the middle of testimony. Where they were asking for legitimate change. You know what this committee is supposed to do? It's supposed to say, listen, what are we doing differently?
Point of order, relevance.
We're talking about your motion. That's what we're talking about, Liberal MP across the way. And nobody here brought up abortion. You did. We brought these women here today and the police chief because we have bills that are sitting in the House of Commons that are actually making things worse. Right now, please, if you don't know this story, this is happening right now. This woman's body could be found at any time. Hopefully she is found alive. But a man charged with kidnapping, a search for Markham woman continues. Right now this is happening. Right now this is happening. And if there's a member in this committee that doesn't think this is happening, and to my colleague from Winnipeg, 100%. But what is collegiality? What is compassion if you are not using this damn committee to change the legislation to save lives?
Point of order. Point of order,
Leah.
Collegiality is giving people time to put forward witnesses because we all care about the issue. Collegiality is about making sure that we do things properly.
That's perfect.
So that we can deal with things and make change. That's what collegiality is. To my friend across the way who I've worked very closely with in committee in a collegial way that we work very respectfully with.
Back to you.
Thank you. And so I think you are 100% right. And I think that is why we need to extend these meetings. And I'm going to put forward a motion. And I just, on behalf of the entire committee, and again, I will reiterate this to Cait's mom, who's standing here, who's had to witness her daughter leave in tears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry isn't good enough.
I agree.
We've heard sorry.
I agree.
A lot.
What did Cait's mom say?
So Cait's mom said, sorry isn't good enough.
She's absolutely right. It's typically women who vote Liberal. Men are traditionally seen as voting Conservative. I know that's not 100% accurate. I'm not saying men only vote Conservative or women only vote Liberal, but typically it's skewed along gender lines to a degree. And I think we need to show our female friends, mothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, that this is what the Liberals really think of women, and this is what the Liberals actually think of domestic violence.
Agree. I would like to put forward a motion. This has to go further than status of women, but I'm going to put forward this motion today. Given testimony heard today that the Standing Committee on the Status of Women hold 4 more meetings on the impacts of violent crime against women and reports to the House. And that is what I would suggest. It is merely to hear more from victims, and in the spirit of my colleagues' notes, let's do this. Obviously, this is heated. Obviously, this is a serious issue. But to put forward a motion in the middle of victim testimony about abortion
doesn't make sense.
So,
okay, so there currently is a motion on the floor, the original one, so we can't pass a second motion until the original motion is dealt with.
How convenient.
So that is correct. That's a correct ruling by the chair. Chair is a Conservative chair, just so everybody knows. But that is correct. You can't just stop debate on a current motion in order to go to another one. That's the unfortunate part about this. You have to complete the vote on the first motion and deal with it before you can move to another one, unless the meeting is adjourned.
But this goes to my point from, who's the lady on the headset, Gazan?
Yes.
Yeah. So it goes to my point that, she's all upset that she doesn't have people from her riding testifying. She could do exactly what Michelle just did and said, I put forward a motion to, have more meetings on this, that we need so many more meetings, and then talk to the chair about bringing in witnesses. That's in their power. But they don't want to investigate this further because it will look bad for Trudeau and the rest of the Liberals.
Well, and here's the question. Why, if they're so worried about this, why didn't they bring it up prior to today? Why? Oh, right, because to Tanya's point, then you would have had to talk about Bill C5 and Bill C75, which are the problematic bills that the Liberals, backed by the NDP, have introduced. And then you'd have to talk about the fact that the Liberals and the NDP have completely broken our justice system.
I came here and witnesses left crying, and I've never seen this before. And seeing how this committee is carrying on, I've never seen that either. I am so disheartened to see that the Status of Women committee that up until now was very proud of not falling into the trap of partisanship. And I was hoping that my committee would not fall into this trap. Women cannot become tools for political games, and that's what's happening.
So the Bloc was primarily referring to the crap that the Liberals were pulling, because in the in the vote to challenge the chair, the Bloc sided with the Conservatives, but was voted down because of the NDP. And there was, I believe, another vote to suspend debate on the abortion motion, which was voted down, but the Bloc sided with the Conservatives on that one as well. And in the end, the Conservatives, led by Anna Roberts, she just put forward a motion to adjourn, because she said it's obvious we're not going to accomplish anything today.
You know, and this is how the vast majority of committees are starting to turn out. The opposition that's doing their job, so the Conservatives and or the Bloc, are bringing forward concerns and evidence, and the Liberals don't like it. So with the aid of the NDP, they're shutting down committee, and they're literally poisoning our parliament. Like, they're not acting the way a government should act. They're not collaborating with the opposition and trying to work through things together for the betterment of Canadians. No, they think that they can act with impunity. They're doing whatever they want, and when they don't get their way, they shut down committee with dirty, underhanded tactics.
To the point where they're actually breaking the established standing orders and the rules of Parliament.
To the point where they are terrorizing the witnesses so that they are running out of the committee room crying. That is not okay. That is not okay.
And now this lady gets to fly back to California, thinking that she's completely wasted her time, and she's not going to come back to committee if she's invited. Why would she?
I don't blame her, you know, and it's all of us that lose out, because I am sure she has so much knowledge and may have some solutions that the government can implement to help make this better for all Canadian women. And what did they do? The Liberals terrorized her, and like I just have no words. Like, what the Liberals with the aid of the NDP did to that poor woman is inexcusable.